Gary Snyder placed Anasazi as the first poem in his 1974 collection, Turtle Island. Anasazi is a Navajo word most often translated as Ancient Ones. It designates a group of Native Americans thought to be the predecessors of the modern Pueblo Indians. Anasazi is a celebration poem, much like a chant or a song of praise. It engages both history and myth, presented with striking metaphors and alliteration. A discussion of the meaning of Anasazi must include mention of its style as the form of the poem, its rhythms, its sounds, even its look is intrinsic to what it tells us. The first two lines appear to be only a repetition of the title. In fact, they are. And yet these two one-word lines also set the tone for the poem's celebratory effect. Read aloud, they should be read slowly, allowing each syllable equal voice in the incantation Anasazi, Anasazi. On an obvious level, they simply describe the subject of the poem, but they also imply the author's feelings about that subject. In essence, he prepares for us the song of praise that follows. Line 3 of the poem refers to the cliff dwellings that the Anasazi people constructed on the steep sides of the mountains, particularly in the Mesa Verde, Colorado region. They eventually built 100-room villages in the cliffs and caves of this area. Remarkable structures still stand today. The cliff houses were blocks of rectangular living and storage spaces tucked into rocky walls, providing shelter from inclement weather as well as aggressive enemies. As the people themselves moved into the cliffs, so did their livelihoods, and they used their excellent stone masonry skills to construct cliffside granaries. As line 4 indicates, the Anasazi also planted their crops on the mountains and were able to grow strict fields of corn and beans, even on such unlikely terrain. The word strict here is not used as in austere or harsh, but in the absolute or accurate sense. Maize horticulture had been the driving force behind turning the ancestors of the Anasazi from a hunting-gathering culture into the more settled crop growers, and it became a mainstay of their economy. The addition of beans and squash provided a nutritious supplement to their diet, and remaining evidence indicates that they were very precise, skilled farmers. Line 5 of the poem may be interpreted both literally and figuratively, for the Anasazi sank deeper and deeper in earth in more ways than one. In the actual sense, the Anasazi people of 200 to 500 AD stored their goods as well as their dead in deep pits in the ground. Over the centuries, the Anasazi increased the size of partly underground spaces until they became their actual living quarters, now known as pit houses, consisting of several rooms. When the people began into the cliffs, the earth dwellings did not disappear, but rather took on a new significance in the culture. By 900 AD, the pit houses were completely subterranean, and they were used in the ceremonial role of the village kiva. Kivas are prominent throughout the history of all tribes and are typically underground chambers used especially by men to hold council and to perform religious ceremonies. In this literal sense, then, the Anasazi did sink deeper and deeper in earth. Line 5 may also be seen as a metaphor for the deep ties these Native American people had with nature. They grew their food in the earth, lived in the earth, and worshipped in the earth, requiring an obvious respect and love for the land. Lines 6 to 8 carry the metaphor a bit further, highlighting the rituals often performed in the kiva and addressing in particular the intertwining of natural elements in a celebration of life for all. The gods are of the earth, and eagle feathers become headdresses. The dancing of knees and elbows appears like lightning, and the eyes are full of pollen because pollen represents fertility and growth. All these natural entities, eagle down, lightning, knees, elbows, eyes, pollen, blend into the poem to help create its prize of nature and of the people who themselves had such a strong alliance with the natural world. In his essay, Gary Snyder, The Lessons of Turtle Island, critic Michael Castro describes the poet's response to the common overuse and misuse of natural resources in the industrialized world. Snyder pointed out to Indian societies as models of human organization that do not self-destruct but exploiting and exhausting their resources. Their relationship to the land is characterized by protection rather than production. And although pollen may indeed represent reproduction and growth, it is not used here to indicate an explosive and overriding increase, but one that lives in harmony with the earth and its creatures. Lines 10 to 12, remaining ones, may be viewed as chunks of imagery that depict the Anasazi lifestyle and its interdependence on and with natural surroundings. The smell of bats reminds us that these people lived in caves and on steep cliffs and shared their dwellings with other mammals who made their homes in the rocks. The flavor of sandstone, grit on the tongue, refers not only to the cliff houses but to the pottery created by the Anasazi for both utilitarian and decorative purposes. These Native Americans were very adept at masonry and working in clay, and stone was so prevalent that it must have gotten into their mouths as well as their eyes and nose. Lines 13 to 15 may seem to imply a terrible hardship in the lives of Anasazi women giving birth to their children in the night at the bottom of steep ladders which they had to climb to their houses. It is not written in a bemoaning style or with a harsh tone. Instead, there is a softness in its simple statement, made more evident by the two-syllable, one-word lines, women, birthing. Line 15 again reiterates the remarkable dwellings the Anasazi constructed and tells us how they had to enter and exit their homes. Lines 16 and 17 give us a panoramic view of the natural setting in which the imagery pulls us away from the people themselves and takes us to the trickling streams, the hidden canyons, and the cold rolling desert. Though brief, these phrases paint a vivid picture of the natural beauty that surrounded the Anasazi. Since the desert is cold, it's night time, and therefore the lines provide an idyllic connection between the childbirth in the dark, addressed in the previous lines, and the beginning of a new life with the cliff dwellers cited in the next. The Anasazi were not only skilled potters but fine basket weavers as well. They found many uses for their baskets, including hauling corn and carrying babies. If lines 18 and 19 were turned into a complete sentence, it may read something like the red and wide-eyed newborn was carried to his home in the cliffs in a corn barn. The effect, of course, would be greatly diminished. Snyder ends his poem the way he began it. Not only does the repetition of the word Anasazi bring a sense of roundness or of coming full circle to the work, but it re-emphasizes the sound of it. Speaking the name of the people one more time slowly, Anasazi, completes the song of praise on a peaceful and very